Hey, what's up everyone? It's RJ from CSBC Youth, and I want to tell you how to have a gospel conversation with somebody. This is an encouragement because I want you to think of sharing the gospel with somebody as a conversation. So many think of it as preaching or even doing a Bible study and teaching. But really, having a gospel conversation is just talking about the things of God, talking about Jesus with another person. And that's actually pretty easy to do if you think about it. You can ask people questions. You can talk to people about things that you did and share experiences, but you can also just go ahead and ask people things that they're interested in and get to know them better and start to find out things about their life that are very unique and how it ties into having a relationship with God. And so I want to share with you 3 easy things you can do to have a gospel conversation with somebody. Number 1, the first thing that you need to do is be casual. So you need to start off with a conversation with something that is an interesting topic or something that maybe you have in common, or you fish for it, you look for it, right? So if you're in an area where you know there's people that love sports, talk about sports. That's casual. Start to build rapport. Talk about the things that are interesting in the context in which you're in. The environment in which you're at dictates kind of how the conversation should go. So if you're in the middle of the supermarket, you shouldn't be talking about something crazy that's out of the norm, that doesn't make any sense, because that's really not the place to talk about it. Talk about food at the supermarket, because you're there to get probably groceries. So start talking about your favorite thing to eat, or what you're going to get, or ask somebody, what's your favorite brand of milk, or what's your favorite kind of ice cream? Something simple like that starts to become casual. People open up and you can start building rapport. So the first thing you need to do is be casual. Talk about the things that are in your environment and let that dictate the beginning of your conversation. You don't start with just the gospel right away. Some people aren't ready for that. And I would argue in our culture today, that is a non-offense culture who sees Christianity as something that is not helpful for their life, but is hurtful. They want to not talk about the things of God and talk about things that are important to them. And right now, the gospel is not the most important thing to them. So if we're trying to reach people that don't know Jesus, that's going to be really hard. So you have to start casual, and you have to have these relationships with people so you can start to enter into the second thing, which is that you need to get into it personally with them. Number 2, the second thing you need to do is be personal. So once you start out with a casual conversation and talk about things that are of common interest in the environment in which you're in, now get personal with that individual and ask them a personal question. Ask them about maybe their relationship status, or ask them about something that they own or something that they mentioned in their time where they said something about sports or, food at those different locations where you're bringing up these conversations. The casual conversation naturally transitions to a personal conversation. Start talking about personal things. But if they don't want to talk about them, then you talk about them. You share your life. And people relate to life-on-life examples. If you have something going on in your family, you can guarantee that the person you're talking to has something going on in their family. You know what I mean? It's so true, isn't it? You just strike up a conversation, you find out that you both got drama in your relative's situation, or you both got hurt going on because you both lost a loved one that you were very close to. It's crazy how God created us for that community, right? And so when you're having a gospel conversation with somebody, to get personal is very important because we want to see every person as a soul, as an individual who's been created in the image and likeness of God. And so if you don't see people that way and you're just trying to make converts, or you're just proselytizing and basically trying to get people to believe in Jesus and then walking away from them, then you're missing the whole point. We want the whole life to know new life. And so it has to be personal. You have to talk about their whole life. You have to get to know their whole life and understand that whole person so you can relate to them. Number 3, the third thing is to get spiritual. So you start out with a casual conversation, then you get personal, and the last thing is spiritual. So you want to get into the spiritual conversation, ask some questions about going to church, ask them questions about going to different religious services, or asking them about their faith or if they believe in God. Asking basic questions like that are really good, because that helps you to bridge the gap in sharing your faith and what God is doing in your life. This is one of the things I like to share with people because most people are open-minded. They're closed-minded at first because they don't trust you. But after some casual conversation, then you got personal, it's time to get spiritual, and they'll maybe be open to some of these things, and you can start your gospel conversation with them. The thing that I like to do is to ask them questions about church. Like, hey, I go to church on weekends. Do you go to church? That's a very easy question to ask. And when you start asking that question, you find out yes or no or kind of, whatever they say, and you can start building off of that. Other questions that I ask during this time when we get to the spiritual has to do with their belief in God. I'll talk about brokenness and the issues that are happening in our world, and they'll relate to that immediately. They'll just be like, oh yeah, I agree, man, that's crazy out there. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what's so crazy is that even in all of the brokenness that I see around me, I have hope because I have a faith in Jesus that helps me get through it. What about you? Do you believe in God? Next thing you know, you're starting a gospel conversation and talking about the things of God, and it leads them into a conversation about the gospel, about Jesus, and what's the next step for them. So as you share your testimony and you ask good questions, it helps you to navigate the waters of a spiritual context. And so I would encourage you to ask people questions instead of telling them what to believe. Find out what they believe and then answer their questions based on your knowledge of the scriptures and what God has done in your life. Because no one can argue with a changed life. And so when you share what God has done in your life, that's one of the most attractive things when it comes to having a gospel conversation, is that people see that you're passionate, that you're changed, and that God is working in your life, and they may want that too. I hope these steps were helpful for you. These 3 things have helped me tremendously when it comes to having a gospel conversation with someone. And so I pray that the different things that I shared, starting with the casual, moving to the personal, and ending with the spiritual, will help you have gospel conversations with people to talk about the things of God, a relationship with Jesus. Now the gospel is good news.